Hello, my name is Emma, and today we are going to talk about common adverbs we use in everyday conversation. I'll explain what an adverb is, and I'm going to talk about these words today. You will learn especially, actually, honestly, apparently, absolutely, basically, obviously, clearly, definitely, and probably. We'll talk about the meaning of these words, give some examples, as well as their pronunciation. These words are easy to mispronounce. So, to get started, let's talk about what is an adverb. Well, an adverb describes, so it's a grammar word. So these are all adverbs. Adverbs describe how, when, or to what extent something is. So they add extra meaning to a sentence. You can even think of them as helper words. They help the sentence by adding emphasis or adding extra meaning to a sentence. Sometimes they add extra strength to a sentence. So we'll talk about the different ones that are very common in English today. One thing I wanted to point out is all of these words end in ly. Many adverbs end in ly. So if you see a word that ends in ly, there's a good chance it's an adverb. It's important to know, though, that there are other adverbs that do not end in ly. Today, our 10 adverbs all end in ly. So let's get started. Let's look at the meaning of especially. Especially is an important adverb in English. What does it mean? It means something is more important in the sentence, or you want to emphasize something and show that it is the most or more true. So let's look at some examples to understand this. So my first example is about fruits. I like eating fruits. Especially, I love eating pears. So pears are my favorite fruit. I like all fruits, especially pears. So here's my sentence. I love all fruits, especially pears. This means that pears are more important to me, or I like them more. That's more of a true fact. Let's look at another example. I like dresses. I'm wearing a dress right now, but my favorite kind of dress is a flower dress. I love dresses with flowers. So I can say, I like dresses, especially flower dresses, or especially dresses with flowers on it. So those are some examples. Canada is a beautiful country, especially in the wintertime. So that means that I like Canada the most in the winter. So we're adding this idea of more or most when we use especially. So how do we pronounce this word? Actually, let me give you one more example. Imagine there's a movie. You really like the movie, but most importantly, you love the ending. You can use especially here. I thought the movie ending was especially great. I thought the movie ending was especially creative. So you're using this to show it's more or most important. All right, so how do we pronounce especially? Well, the first point on pronunciation is where you put the stress. Stress means the emphasis. Where do you say it louder and longer? So I want you to listen. Especially. Especially. What part is louder and longer? Well, here I've spelt out, based off pronunciation, especially. And notice I've put the spesh as bigger or in capitals. So that's this part. So the second syllable has the stress. I especially like scary movies. I especially like learning about new technology. So those are some examples. So again, especially. So you can practice saying that in front of a mirror. Using a mirror can really help you with your pronunciation. So the next adverb is actually. Actually is a very important adverb. We use it to express the truth or the reality or a fact. We use it often when we are correcting information. So what do I mean? Well, I'll give you an example. He said the test was hard, but actually it was easy. So somebody said something. They said the test is hard, but the truth is we think it's easy. He said the test was hard, but it was actually easy. Here's another example. People think I love shopping. Actually, I don't love shopping. I find it stressful. So that's another example of correcting a fact or correcting an assumption people might have. So how do you pronounce actually? The pronunciation might surprise you. The first part, ac, so the AC actually has a K sound, and it's the part we say louder and longer. It's the stress. Ac. The second part, even though it's spelled with a TU, is pronounced like an SHU. So we would say akshu. Akshu. And now if we add the last part, we can say actually. Some people say it in 4 syllables, actually, actually. Other people say it in 3 syllables, actually. I usually say it in 3 syllables, actually. So you can say this with me, actually, actually. I actually love my job. So this means that, honestly, I think it's a great job. Our next word is apparently. What does apparently mean? Well, we use apparently when something seems to be true based off of things we've heard or things people have said or what we've observed, but it's not confirmed. So let's look at some examples. Imagine I have a coworker, Hannah, and I hear from some coworkers Hannah got a promotion, but I don't know for sure. It hasn't been announced formally. I can use apparently in this situation. Apparently, Hannah got a promotion. So this means that people have heard this, I've heard this, but it's not yet confirmed. Another example is, imagine a singer is coming to my city. So let's say Ed Sheeran. Apparently, Ed Sheeran is coming to Toronto in August. So maybe I've heard this from some people, but it's not yet confirmed. Here's another example. People sometimes have said that I have a loud voice. I've never had my voice tested, but apparently people think I have a loud voice. So again, it's not confirmed based off a medical test, but some people have said that to me or observed it. So apparently people think I have a loud voice. Let's look at pronunciation of this word. So for apparently, the second syllable is what we say with emphasis. So it's the part we say louder and longer. Apparently. Apparently. So here it is. Apparently. Apparently. And again, the stress for adverbs is very important. It really helps people understand what you're saying. So make sure you use you stress the right syllable when you say this word. apparently. So our next adverb is obviously. I love this adverb. Obviously means something is very clear. It's not surprising. In fact, when you use obviously, it means that you think the listener probably already knows what you are saying, and you might not even have to say it because it's so clear and so easy to understand. So let me give you an example. Obviously, if you practice more, you'll improve. I used obviously here because I'm trying to stress that most people know this. If you practice, you will improve. The more you practice, the more you improve. Because almost everybody knows this, I'm using obviously because I think it's very clear and easy to understand. Let's look at another example. If you're watching this video, you obviously have internet access. So why am I saying obviously? Well, I assume that if you're watching this video is on the internet, so you would have needed to go on the internet to see this video. So to me, that's obvious. So I said, you obviously have the internet if you're watching this video, or access to the internet. Here's another example. Obviously, if you're sick, you should stay home. So sometimes people go to parties when they're very sick, and other people will say, oh, obviously you're sick, you should stay home. So it's an easy to understand thought. So how do we pronounce obviously? Well, so we have a B and a V. So this word can be a bit difficult for some Spanish speakers. So we put the stress on the first part, ob, and then we have the V, ob-V, and notice how my lips go under my teeth, ob-V, asli, obviously, obviously. So that's how we say this word, obviously. So the strength is on the first syllable. The next adverb is clearly. Clearly is like obviously, which we already talked about. Clearly is used to indicate or show something is obvious. It's easy to understand. Let's look at some examples. We could say, imagine there's a man and he has a lot of work experience. We can say, he is clearly the best person for the job because he has a lot of work experience. Here's another example. Imagine there's a woman or a girl and she got every question on her exam wrong. And we know she doesn't study hard usually. The teacher might say, clearly she didn't study. She got all the questions wrong. So it means something is obvious, easily explained. So how do we pronounce the word clearly? This might be a hard word for some of our audience because we have a C and an L together. We call that a consonant cluster when you have two consonants together. So first of all, clear is the part we stress. So we say clearly. Clear is louder and longer. Now, the way to pronounce this is you can imagine the first sound is a K sound, K. And then we have the next part, leer. So it rhymes with ear. K-leer. K-leer. Now I'm going to bring them together to say clear. 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 Sometimes by breaking up a word and saying it's slow and then saying it faster and faster, it can help you with your consonant clusters. So clearly. I am clearly saying clearly. So our next adverb is basically. Basically is used to simplify a sentence. So we're saying something simple. Maybe there's something complicated, but we take what's complicated and we make it simple. And we show we're doing this with basically. Or we can also use it to summarize an idea. We use it to show this is the most important part of the idea. So let's look at some examples. So imagine people are asking about my car. Oh, does your car work? Well, basically, my old car works, but the tires need to be changed. I need new tires. So this is, again, simplifying the information. Instead of talking about the engine and this and that about the car, I'm just talking about, well, basically, it's a good car, but I need new tires. Here's another example. Imagine we're talking about traveling and the pros and cons of traveling. I might say, well, basically, traveling is becoming more expensive. So I'm summarizing, maybe I have a lot to say about this, but I'm summarizing it into this sentence. Basically, traveling's more expensive than it used to be. Here's another example. A lot of people are worried about social media. So if I was talking about this to somebody and I wanted to summarize a main point, I could say, basically, many people think social media is addictive, or many people are worried about social media. So again, we're using basically to either simplify information or to summarize information. So how do we pronounce basically? So I've written it out here, how I would say it. Bay is the first part, and that's where the stress is. So we say bay louder and longer. Bay sick, like sick. Basically. Basically. That's how we basically say basically. Absolutely is our next adverb. I love this adverb, absolutely. It's a very strong adverb that gives emphasis to what you're saying. So imagine I want to say, I agree. That sounds good. But if I say, I absolutely agree, that makes it stronger. I love maple syrup. I absolutely love maple syrup. Again, it makes it stronger. If you ask somebody, are you going to the party? They might say yes. But somebody who's really excited might say absolutely, which shows they are excited because it's a strong adverb. So how do we pronounce absolutely? So the stress is on the third syllable. We would say absolutely. So there's 4 syllables in total. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so this is a really good one, especially if you're an excitable person. Okay, so the next adverb is definitely. Definitely expresses certainty. So although nothing is 100% sure when we're talking about the future, when you use definitely, it means you're almost certain. You're almost 100% sure of something. So for example, if somebody said, hey, are you coming to the party tonight? I might say, I'm definitely going to the party tonight. So I'm expressing that I'm certain I'm going. Or maybe I look outside, there's dark rain clouds. It's starting to get cold. I look at the weather station and it says it's going to rain. I might tell my friend, yeah, it's definitely going to rain. So this means I'm sure of something. So how do we pronounce this? Well, this adverb has the stress on the first syllable. So we would say def, very strong and loud, definitely, definitely. and there are 4 syllables. Definitely. Definitely. Is learning English hard? Definitely. Is learning English a great thing to do? Definitely. So our next word is probably. This is a very important adverb. It's similar to definitely, but it's less strong. When we say probably, we mean there's a high possibility of something, or something is highly likely. There's a good possibility it will happen. So definitely was close to 100% sure. Probably is less. It's maybe 75% sure. So let's look at some examples. I'll probably come to the party. Does that mean 100% I will be at the party? No, but it means that there's a very good chance I will go to the party. Maybe 75% chance I will be there. Or if you think about rain, if I say it will probably rain today, maybe I think it's 75% chance of rain. So probably is less strong than definitely, but it means that we're somewhat certain of something. So how do we pronounce this word? Well, the first part is where we have the stress, where we say it's stronger and louder and longer. There's actually 2 different pronunciations of this. You can say with 3 syllables, probably, probably, or you can say it in conversation with 2 syllables, probably, probably, or probably. You will hear people use both. So our last adverb today is honestly. Honestly is an interesting adverb. We use it to express something that's true, so some truthfulness, or sincerity, to show our honest feelings, and often to show our honest opinion. We often use honestly when we have an opinion that people might not like. So let me give you some examples. Imagine somebody's doing something. I might say, honestly, that's not a good idea. So I'm showing my opinion and I'm trying to give an honest opinion. We can use it also for other situations that are positive. So it's not always negative. It depends on how somebody says it. So sometimes it can be negative, sometimes it can be positive. Honestly, I don't like Mondays. So this is my opinion. I don't like Mondays. I like the weekend. Honestly, I don't like Mondays. Okay, here's another example. I lived in China for a year, and sometimes we would get some food and I would look at the food and be nervous to try it. But honestly, the food was delicious. I loved Chinese food so much. It's some of my favorite types of food come from China, so I love a lot of Chinese food. So honestly, I think Chinese food is delicious. How do we pronounce this? Well, we pronounce honestly by putting the stress on the first syllable. Honestly. Honestly. Honestly, teaching English is a really fun job that I really love. So we've covered a lot of different adverbs today. You can check out our quiz at www.engvid.com and practice what you learned here. Remember, obviously, practice makes perfect. So you can practice the different adverbs and their meanings. You can also subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of different videos on pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, and so much more. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.